Okay, we'll work. Sorry about the delay, folks. There was a lot of technical issues this evening. I don't know why, but Restream and OBS and nothing else wanted to work. And then when I actually finally get in, the mic doesn't work either. So I think we're there now. I think we're working. I think we're okay. Can everyone hear me okay? I'm going to wait till the chat confirms that they can hear me, because I can see my audio, but hopefully everyone else is. Yeah, cool. Awesome. Right, okay, so we're a little bit behind than we wanted to, about 8 minutes behind, so hopefully we can catch up a little bit. There is so the title of the video is basically Bounty Hunter Necromunda. We are obviously I've fallen to Yankee's requests for some Necromunda content, so we're actually going to be doing something. I had an idea that I thought might work quite nicely. So yeah, we're going to be doing a little bit of a kitbashing as we normally do on these, and we're going to be doing around the theme of a bounty hunter. So I quite like the idea of a bounty hunter that works specifically for the chaos cults. Maybe taking out people who are working to undermine them, or have just, annoyed them to the point. So yeah, I don't know much about Necromunda lore, as I've already described. Yankee has offered to do a lot more for me in that regard and fill me in, but I thought, well, I'm going to go into it with a completely open mind and just do something, whether or not it follows the lore or not. We're going to do something. I know there's chaos cults in Necromunda. I know that there are bounty hunters, so we're going to merge the two. We're going to kick straight into it. Let's see. Look at that. Oh, we've still got the co-host there. I might get rid of the co-host for the time being. Maybe we'll bring him back later. So, where are the bases? So the basis of the build, if you've seen the thumbnail, which might have given it away a little bit, you might have seen that there is a... what are these guys called? They're not the Palinitan forces, they're the Necromunda ones. These are the... the Adeptus Arbites. That was it. So we're going to be building the basis of the model around these guys. There is going to be a little bit of adjustment to make. Obviously, there is little... Aquilas and dotted about the model. We'll need to remove those. I've got a few Chaos Space Marine boxes here somewhere. Where are the there. So I'm probably going to be drawing a lot of inspiration from the Blooded kit, the Kill Team kit, and also the Chaos Cultists as well. So I'm going to grab those out just so we've got some to hand, because there's some pretty cool pieces in there. I also have my Necromunda box ready to grab any parts that I might need from that particular kit. But we should be okay with these. It's going to be fairly simple. Hopefully get this done in the next 2 hours or so, and yeah, have a nice model that we can use for this. So yeah, I hope everyone is having a wonderful week since the last stream. There has been some... If you remember, you would have seen you would have a member or a patron. You would have seen that the early access video for this Sunday has already gone up. So if you haven't done so already, check that out. And I'm currently working on the next video, which is probably going to be 2 weeks on Sunday, so a few more weeks out. But it's going to be a good one. That's all I'm going to say. I might reveal more closer to, but for the time being, we're going to do it. So, yeah, let's have a look at the comments, because I haven't really looked an awful lot into there. Galto, I loved your Chaos Cultist series. Would you ever consider doing Loyalist chapter serfs like the Marine servants? Yeah, so I did a similar kind of series. It was the PDF forces, the Planetary Defense Forces, for the particular... I think I've got some on my wall up there still. Yeah, I did the Ultramarines, and then I did Salamanders as well. I have had a few ideas around that area, so I might come back to that in the future, but for the time being, I'm also looking for an instruction book. So I need to find the instructions for... I know Shock Repeat the Wargame actually follows instructions. I have been known to follow instructions sometimes, simply because they make picking the torsos, the different... They're the navy breaches. Not them. We might have to... if they're not in here... Navy breaches... Nope. No, I don't seem to have them, so we're going to have to do some guesswork. Welcome to the Lionel Johnson conversion channel. Today I'm going to spice things up and not do a Lionel conversion today. I've genuinely been thinking about Lionel Johnson and what I could do with that kit in the future, just because I think it's quite funny just to see how many different iterations of Primox we can build using that same kit. The best part is I've built 2 versions of Comrade Curse using the kit so far, so yeah, I mean, maybe I probably need to look at doing some other... Okay, so that's good. The actual sprue does seem to line up with the numbers are usually pretty good on these, like the surrounding numbers are usually work well. So 74, 75, 76 and 73 as well. That makes the 4 parts to make up the torso and the legs. Okay, so it gives us a basis. Helmet-wise, I'm not 100% sure which way to go here, because the head that I wanted to use comes from the Chaos Guy. Where's that sprue? So the head that I wanted to use was from the Chaos Quarters, which was this particular head here, you can see. Quite like that one. I'm not sure how well, but the trouble is with this one, you can see it's just basically the front half, so we're going to need to do something like the back half of the head. There are a few other options on here, so it's not entirely. We also have what options are on the blooded sprue. Now these might work a little bit better simply because they are more separate heads, but the thing is with these are fairly... I don't want to say boring, because they're not. They're quite nice and detailed, but in terms of actual having like a really ostentatious looking Chaos Bounty Hunter, they are pretty boring in that regard. So I think what we're going to do instead is we're going to ignore this for the time being. Oh, hang on, we've got the upgrade sprue here. Is there anything on? No, nothing particularly fun there. So we're going to probably do a little bit of a mismatch and try and combine a few different components together. Okay. You should add an exotic beast sidekick pet to your bounty hunter. I'd probably just need to get some sort of little familiar for that one. That would work pretty well, I think. Oh, actually, that's a pretty cool head as well. I think this is my favourite one, though, so I'm going to go for that one. Let's remove that first, and that gives us an idea of what we can use the head with. Right, where is... the helmets? So we have a few helmets on here already. You know what, we could probably... These ones might work quite well. These ones kind of got the open heads, because I can easily just shave off the face and use that and use the rest of the helmet. That's an option. Second option is just use one of the normal heads, which we have somewhere on here. There's actually not that many. Is there another sprue that has the rest? I think there's a third sprue somewhere, which I don't have. Okay, so I think we can... You know what, I'm just going to use this basic head, just because if I want to use one of the other heads in the future, I'm not going to lose that. We'll start with that one. Jamie, the king of kitbashing has called court once again on this day of sprue corruption and misuse. Very much. Any chance of nerglifying Horsehouse submarines anytime in the near future? That is a good question, Arnold the Gans, because So one of the things, funny enough, it's something that Yankee also suggested in the previous stream, and that was basically to use the new models that are coming with the new box and look at how I could create some sort of multi-use army that can be used in both. That can be used in both the Horus Heresy and then also be used in 40k as well. So yeah, I think. Oh, so also thank you very much for the super chat as well. I appreciate that. But yeah, definitely was looking at doing that. It would probably be. I'm not 100% sure of the timeline but I do believe that by the point of the Horus Heresy, there were a few characters which had kind of started to get those corruptions. Definitely, obviously, there's demons appearing. Galvorbak, they had very much chaos demons living in them at the time of the Horus Heresy. So, yeah, maybe looking at how we could incorporate some mutations into the Mark II armor, because that Mark II armor is very Death Guard, as is the Mark III. But yeah, I'm wondering if maybe there's a way of doing something that I can add a little bit of slight Nurglification and then go from there. So yeah. Oh, also, just for the Yankee here, this is as we discussed in the previous stream. This is my tea with milk. So, cheers. New drinking game. Take a shot whenever he takes my name. I'll just not say it again. It's fine. In the Siege of Terror, there were definitely straight up plague marines. Okay, cool. That's. I thought there were, but it was one of those things where I've looked into so much lore about different things. I'm not sure if I was just confusing things. So if there is plague marines by at least the Siege of Terror, then definitely that's an option. My only other thoughts were about that box is that I really wanted to do something with the big Assassinine Dreadnought, because I think that would just make a really, really nice Grey Knight, Dread Knight alternative. But yeah. So yeah, in answer to your original question, there are plans. I'm not sure how well they will go, but yeah, it would be quite nice to do some Plague Marines using the Mark II, and then if I can do them in such a way where they are usable in both Horus Heresy and also in 40k as a Death Guard army, then that would be even better. Lionel Knights, and can I make Lionel Johnson to a knight? There's a lot of options. I'd actually say I've not done anything with the Gilliman kit, and the reason why that is just because his armor is so immensely ornate. And the trouble is when you've got ornate armor is that you have to either cover it, which again is difficult because then you end up with like a really stupidly bulky armor, or you have to scrape it all away, and that takes time, and you can damage stuff as well. So, also just want to say hello to Twitch as well. We are streaming on Twitch, so if you do prefer to consume your content over on Twitch, you can see me over there. But we are also on YouTube, so if I reply to comments that are on one side and not the other, it's because I don't think I can restream the chats. I think it's like against Twitch's terms of service or something. Anyway. Okay, so the first thing that we need to do is to remove any obvious Imperial iconography like the belt buckle. So that's going to be a nice little quick removal. Much easier than doing the Aquilas from... Or they're not actually Aquilas, are they? They're Imperialis. This is an Aquila. So we're going to take that away. Just a nice, easy removal job. Nothing too fancy. We can possibly cover that up later on. And the first thing I'm going to do is really just to find the basic structure of the model first. I think I might add a little bit of damage to the armor. It's probably a little bit too clean for a Necromunda Bounty Hunter. So we're going to add a little bit of damage in there as well, especially into these armor plates. Saturnine Terminators into Lionel Johnson. into Saturnine Terminators again. Dare, good evening, and Matean Yilmaz Death Corps of Winged Hussars. Yeah, I think were you in the last live stream asking me about that as well? I think there's definitely a cool option, especially for the Death Riders now that we have plastic ones. They're a little bit more in line with what we have in terms of, especially than the Attilian Rough Riders, I think. So this is the head. We're going to use this one for the time being. Okay, so let's add some damage to the armor. Now everything should go together. Now I've cleaned it up a little bit. Did you finish the Corn Wolf Gods? No, I basically just did the one for the live stream. There wasn't really anything which was... I mean, I may expand on this in the future, but I think for the time being, I was happy with just this for the moment. Quite a nice, simple kit bash. Nothing too straightforward. Just dual wielding corn axes. So yeah, not bad at all. Thinking more about Primarch Lionel Johnson conversions, then how about a Loyalist Vilex Apostus? Turn the lion's coat into a lab coat. It's not a bad option. It's not a bad option. To be genuinely, for a second there, when you said Vilex Apostus, I was like, who's he? Who's Vilex Apostus? I mean, that's some obscure Horus Heresy. No, it's the Primarch that I made and spent ages working on the lore for. I think the name was one of the last things that I come up with. I went through a few iterations, so I kind of couldn't remember what I decided on the name. But yeah, no, it's a good option. I could do a non-demonic version of it. It'd be interesting because I could obviously take some... Oh wait, I'm focused there. I could take some inspiration from the big guy and then use some of that design language, I hate using that word, but following that kind of style into and across the model. Okay, there's a little bit of damage there, probably a little bit over the top for what they need, but that's fine. Just a few scratches and dents. So the next video that I'm working on currently, which is, like I said, will be out in hopefully just over 2 weeks' time. We are looking at another Primarch build. I have already talked about it on... Was it the last stream? It might have been the last stream. Could have been the one that we did the week before. But yeah, it's going to be another Primarch. One which I've not tackled before. So it's not Angron. It's not Lehman Russ. It's not Comrade Kurz. It's not Sanguinius. It is an entirely new one. So I have spoken about it as well, so if you can guess, I will be impressed. But I have all of the parts. They are in the process of being trimmed down and adjusted. It's going to be a fun one. If you wanted to give some cool damage, you can maybe try taking some of the Aquilers partially visible and look far off. Yeah, I think that is quite a nice idea. I've been tempted to use that in the past, especially for some of the more obvious, like the traitor guards that have more recently turned. They're pretty good for that. Gene Stealer cults as well, because up until the point of emergence, they are pretty much loyalist, or at least outwardly loyalist, even if they're not inwardly so. Unknown Host 222, I hope it's the Khan. It's not, but he is on the list. Don't worry, I have ideas for Khan. I have a couple of ideas. I'm not sure which direction to go. One of them is a bit more obvious than others, but we'll see. We'll see. I'll get around to him. Black Llama 2007 on 2007. Yes, Twitch is working this time. I managed to get it working last week, and it seems to still be working, which is great. So yeah, hopefully it stays working, and we can keep on streaming to both, because it is much easier just to do both, because some people prefer one platform than others. Dylan, it's Gilliman. It's not Gilliman. Nuruk, is it Vice? Is it the four-armed Emperor Lorgar? Well, congratulations. You can win yourself some internet points. But yeah, Lorgar the four-armed Emperor is going to be the next conversion. I have all the parts. I won't reveal too much about how I'm approaching it and what I'm doing. I have briefly talked about it in the past, but there you go. A little bit of battle damage there, nothing too much. We can probably get this torso assembled now and make a start. But yeah, four-armed Emperor. Lorgar is going to be hopefully going live in just over 2 weeks' time. So it's still very early. I've not even built anything yet. It's literally just acquiring all the pieces, put them together, make sure they all work together, and then I just literally started adjusting parts yesterday. But yeah, that's what we've got next. Black Llama 2007, what do you prefer, YouTube or Twitch? So I did used to stream on Twitch quite a bit more than I did on YouTube. There was like a program a couple of years ago that I did on Twitch, and after a bit I did actually get a really nice kind of decent sized audience, which I kind of used quite a bit. But then when I kind of finished with that creator program, I wanted to do YouTube a little bit more, simply because obviously most of my audience is on YouTube, so it does make more sense to have it there, because if people subscribe, they get a notification that I'm live. They can watch the VODs quite easily on there as well. But yeah, there we go. There's the basic torso. It's really nice armor. It's kind of, it's sci-fi enough with the extra little gubbins and stuff like that, but the actual armor itself is very medieval inspired, like plate mail, which is pretty cool. I really like that. So this is going to be the head, the basis of the head, but we obviously want to have some sort of we need to have some sort of chaos aspect in there. So what I think I'm going to do is just do some cutting and trimming and adjusting, and just keep doing it until things line up. Can you tell me what hobby knife you're using? So this is actually not a hobby knife. I mean, it's designed for hobbying, but it's actually a Swan Morton scalpel. This is a size 3 handle, and the blades that I use are 10A. Now the reason why I use scalpels is because they are very sharp, first of all, and the great thing is it's actually really cheap to replace the blades, because you can buy them in bulk like this. So you can buy just like a massive pack of them. I think, how many were in here? How many are in this box? Why can't I see that? There's a lot in here anyway. But yeah, I think each of these has got like a little silver foil pouch in there, and there's a few in each one. But they're really nice because what basically you can do is just whenever you start a new project, you swap it out to put a fresh one on, and then because you've always got a nice sharp blade, it actually makes it surprisingly less likely to cut yourself, because you can just use a small amount of pressure. But I've used scalpels for a long time. I've got 2 of them. I used to use different sizes, but I think the 10As are the best ones personally. And I just use different ones and kind of. But yeah, scalpels. You can usually pick them up from a lot of hobby shops, a lot of online ones. Sorry, the one that I get from it is a company that does design work, like supplies for companies who like print shops and design work, so where people need to use scalpels and stuff for cutting out designs. But yeah. How does Chaos Cult work in Necromunda? I've been looking into getting it into Necromunda with Chaos Cult, but I have no idea what book I'd need or what else I'd need to get playing. Yeah, Yankee is just dropped in with the lore knowledge. I have no idea personally. I know roughly that there are Chaos Cults, and I know there are some quite flexible rules that you can use for Necromunda, so you can kind of go from there and model them however you wish. Okay, so we're going to need to really trim this back because this is basically the chin. So we need to really cut that back, but keep this little section of neck here. So it's going to be very iterative. So going back to some of the other comments about the four-armed Emperor, I don't necessarily want to... Oh, we just actually had a raid on Twitch there from Peachy Tips. Peachy raid. This used to happen before, and this is how we got into the biscuit debate last time. There we go. Hey Peachy, how's it going? I hope you've had a good stream, and I do appreciate you telling everyone in the Twitch chat. No one on YouTube is going to know what's going on here, but I've just been raided on Twitch by Peachy, and he's told everyone to say bastard, but I assume it means like in the Sean Bean bastard sense. I'm good, thanks, man. Having a good time. So just for everyone who is joining the stream, we are actually in the process of doing a little bit of kit bashing, as we always do. We're working on some Necromunda kit bash. I don't really do much, but one of my Discord mods, Yankee, he's obsessed with Necromunda, so I thought I would do a Necromunda Bounty Hunter, but one which is a specific bounty hunter that's used by the Chaos Cults of Necromunda. So he's going to be Chaos affiliated, using the Adeptus Arbites base, and we're going to be working from there. We're going to be adding some extra little chaosy bits and hopefully making a pretty cool looking model. Just read the title. I'm giving you the context. The title was the basis. Okay, so this is lining up quite nicely. I think I'm going to have to adjust the horns down a little bit just because the chin needs to sit a lot lower. So I'm going to remove this little section of visor just to narrow down the head, and then we can move this down hopefully and blend that round. Have a nice looking head. But yeah, I've literally no idea. I'm completely reliant on anything Necromunda from Yankee because I am absolutely... I know enough. I know a little bit to get by, but anything which is more in depth and serious and what rules constitutes what, I'm completely... I've tried to get into it. Okay, right, so let's remove those side panels and then we can actually add these helmets to it as well. I forgot to say, Peachy, UK Games Expo, because I think some people said they saw you, but I didn't actually see you on the day, so I wasn't sure if you got there this year. Okay. Yeah, so it's probably why, because the trouble is with those kind of events, anyone who's been to UK Games Expo will understand this, that it is incredibly busy. If you've been to Salute, it's a lot. I mean, Salute's quite a busy day anyway. But UK Games Expo is insane, absolutely insane. Did I enter the competition? I didn't actually, because I was there with the Spare Parts Emporium stuff, so I was selling my dead animal bits, but so I kind of didn't really keep an eye on what was going on for the event because I was just too busy making sure I had everything I needed for it. And then I got there on the Thursday, and I was speaking to some of the guys from Modiphius, and they were like, "Oh, have you entered into the painting competition?" I was like, "There's a painting competition this year?" So yeah, there normally isn't one for UK Games Expo, so it's pretty nice to see. But maybe next year, But Callum, the guy who kind of won overall best diorama. Well, I think it was a squad based one. He had a bunch of Fallout Protectrons, and one of them was like lay down, like fallen over, and the other one was trying to pick it up. It was a really cool little base, but he actually used some of my little dead animal bits on there, which is really nice of him. So yeah, that's pretty cool to see. So let's keep adjust. This is one of those really tedious parts where if you remove too much, you kind of ruin the whole head and you can't use it for much else, but we'll get there. Thanks, Peach. Have a good one. Okay, let's can we see this? Can we see that? Okay, yeah, so you can see normally the chin would sit a little bit down here, so this needs to still go a little bit lower than what we've got currently. So I might start adjusting this mask itself instead, because you have this like little bit that kicks out. And the RBC's helmet with not trimmed down would have been better with the horns. Possibly. I mean, that's always an option that I can go back to anyway. I think I wanted something which didn't just look like it was an RBT's, but let's see. Yeah, so we can see the actual position is sitting a lot better now. The problem that we have at the moment is that it's sitting too far forward, so we need to just do more trimming. It would have been much easier to just add the horns, I agree, in that regards, and I could have just used any multitude of horns from any different source, but sometimes if it's worth doing right. Here's the thought in the same vein of making Serf/Auxilia based on Space Marine chapters based on Imperial Guard regiments. So I'm laughing not because it's a bad idea, it's a good idea. I'm just trying to think about, I'm kind of picturing in my head what a Catachan Space Marine regiment would look like, and I kind of can't really, I can just imagine Space Marines that were also like sleeveless as well, just muscly arms and like a bandana around the head, and that's it. It's a good idea. I like that. Yeah, you got me thinking. Death Corps of Krieg Space Marines. That'd work. That'd look pretty cool. Cadians are kind of just. I think Cadians are fairly generic, aren't they? I don't know what I would do for those. They're probably the most Space Marine of all, most Ultramarine of all of them, in regards to them being the most vanilla. What else do we have? Armageddon Steel Legion, Valhallans. That'd be pretty cool. Basically Space Wolves, isn't it? I suppose, but. Talon Desert Raiders, yeah. I think I think that'd be a really good excuse to do some pretty cool like tank forces. Okay, so what do we... So the only thing is that I'm kind of now regretting doing all this work is the wideness of the helmet versus the wideness of the mask. So I might do a very, very... Yeah, black belt painted Praetorian Guard. Yeah, that would be interesting. That would definitely be interesting. Right, I'm just going to do a little bit of quick glue here, just to see how this looks on the actual model, because I think now that things are lining up, we're seeing a little bit more... I mean, the actual head looks pretty good, but I think it's looking too big. I think we still need to trim that down. The width is maybe workable. Yeah, the width is probably workable. How many different kinds of microplastic have you inhaled in total? Not that much, to be fair. It's probably just mainly the polystyrene, because this is what this is made out of. So yeah, it's mainly polystyrene. I'm when it comes to resin, I am a little bit better. I tend to wear, especially if I'm doing like 3D printing and stuff, I usually wear a mask. But yeah, I'm not very good at this kind of thing. Do you happen to know off the top of your head what kits I can find two-handed weapons in? I'm working on Space Marines and I've been wanting a couple of models with giant thunderhammers and axes. Okay, we're going to do a quick... We're going to have a quick break. We're doing really well. We've been running 15 minutes off the hour, so we're going to have a quick Firefox. It's not working. Oh no. Okay. Okay, I thought OBS had crashed then. We're okay, we're good. Right, so what we're looking for. Two-handed weapons for Space Marines. The best place to look is going to be the Horus Heresy, and that is because they have the accessory packs. Now, where is it? Where is it? So these do work on Primus. I'm not sure what kind of... I should probably... I always do this. I always just ignore... So I think it's weapon... So there is a hand weapon upgrade kit. Where is it? That is one kit that does have them. That's odd. Close combat. Close combat. What is going on? That's the... I feel like I'm having one of those Mandela moments here because I can't find it on here. It's definitely... It'll be on accessories. It'll be on the... I've not missed it. It's on. It's not on this page. The guns are on there. It must be on the last one. It's meant to just be a very quick divergence. Where is it? There. Okay, right at the bottom. Oh, it's because it's out of stock. That's why it's not showing up. Okay. This particular kit is very good. So this has a good few two-handed weapons. You've got some two-handed thunderhammers, two-handed spears, which are nice. And you can swap out the tips for hammers if you need to. It doesn't have any axes, but you could probably... I mean, it's got these axes at the top left here, but you could swap out the heads for these hammers as well. So if you wanted to kind of mix and match, you don't get an awful lot on those. These arms do work with Primus, but they do require a little bit of fiddling. They also have the eviscerator chainsaws as well. Another option would be the Blood Angels upgrade sprue that does come with a two-handed weapon. You have this kind of this arm here which has the Eviscerator, and then the other option would be probably start looking into more like Chaos units, just because there are a few in there which have them. So 40k, Armies of Chaos, World Eaters definitely has one, and then the regular Chaos Space Marines also has a couple. So, there we go. So again, double-handed chainsword. There might also be a double-handed axe as well that you can use. So Khorne Berserkers are quite good. They can be de-chaosified if you need to. So Khorne Berserkers is one option, and then I think Nemesis Claw has got another. They've got some weapons in there that you could use. Where are we here? Yeah, so Legionaries has one, and then I think Nemesis Claw does as well. So Legionaries got this big chain axe, and then the Nemesis Claw has this big kind of two-handed glaive as well. Again, all these are very much more one-off weapons. So if you're looking for consistent options, probably the best option is to go for this one, I would say, personally. Deathwatch veterans have some large Thunderhammers. Yes, you're correct. If we just quickly grab those up. Space Marines, Deathwatch. Deathwatch veterans. Yeah, we have a big two-handed Thunderhammer. And they actually work quite well with Primaris. The Deathwatch were one of the last firstborn Marines that were released, I think, before Primaris came out. So their scales are a little bit better. I don't know why. I think the torsos maybe a little bit wider, or they adjusted stuff. But yeah, you can more easily use. I've used these on models. I think I did one on. I don't need to sign in. I just want to look at this. Okay, take my word for it. If you go on this video, this Kitbashing Blood Ravens Gabriel Angelos video, then I've show you how to use it. But yeah, yes, you can do it. You can use them on. You can use them quite easily on those. Oh, roll one to explode! I didn't realize you'd appeared in the Twitch chat there. I hope you're having a good evening. Can we see more oatcakes, please? Well, I did actually have oatcakes for my lunch yesterday. Let's see if I. There you go. I even took a picture for the chat. I just had cheese oatcakes, so. So hopefully we can. I wonder if we can see this on the. Actually, can I get this? Can I use the power of technology to send this? Oh no, I'm just going to show it on camera because it's easier. Tabletop. There you go. Those are my. The pictures doesn't do it justice, but yeah, those are my oatcakes from yesterday's lunch. I was thinking of you, chap. What set do you think would work best for Chaosified Ultramarines? Chaosified Ultramarines. Okay. So I think the angle that if I was doing chaotic Ultramarines or Chaos Corrupted Ultramarines or anything like that, I think what I would go for is I would start off with some Ultramarine upgrade sprues, first of all. There are a few Ultramarine specific units as well. So obviously you've got Guilliman, you've got Monos Calgar, Tigarius, and Uriel Ventress have all got Ultramarine iconography on them. This set would be fantastic to start off. The Primus upgrade set and the non-Primus stuff as well would work really well. This one This one would work very well. Yeah, you could probably just use a lot of this kind of stuff. Interestingly, I'd be interested to know how well this would work on this particular torso would work on a Chaos Marine. Might be a little bit too small, but yeah, some of these would work very well. You could very easily just mix and match these with some generic Chaos units. I'm trying to think which particular Chaos units would work best. It depends what direction you want to go for Chaos. If you want generic Chaos, then obviously generic Chaos Marines. I think Slaanesh, the new Slaanesh stuff would work quite well. Just because I think they worked quite nicely for when I did them. Oh, interestingly, this is also one of the Horus Heresy weapons. This did require a little bit of adjustment to get it to work on a Chaos Space Marine torso, but it did work. But yeah, I actually think that this, considering this is Slaanesh, apart from a few of the more obvious symbols that are quite easy to remove, there's not an awful lot on there which is obviously Slaanesh. If you swap out some of the heads and swap out some of the weapons, you could probably get away with it, actually, I think. Yeah, I think you could use those as a basis. They're surprisingly clean as well. They don't have too much trim, so I think a blue would work really nicely on those. Yeah. Mr. Pogon, he kitbashed his pancakes. Slaanesh Ultramarines dedicate themselves to excessive optimization of supply lines. Yeah, they take obscene pleasure in Excel data entry. So yeah, in answer to the original question, I think the best thing to do is to start off with some Ultramarine components and then just add them to generic Chaos kits. You can kind of go down that avenue of the Roman / Greek, Greco, however it's pronounced, stylings, and try and emphasize and incorporate more of those. It shouldn't be too difficult to do that. There's plenty of kits that have the tacit belts and things like that. So we're still working on this head. Just trimming it down, just getting it so the front of that face. Normally I'd probably use a Dremel for this just because it would be a lot quicker, but the Dremel's over there and I'm not, so we're going to use the good old knife way. Okay, that might be a little bit far enough to, yeah, so again we need to trim down the bottom of that chin just so it fits more neatly against the torso there, but against the neck, sorry. And then we will have the head. I'm not going to glue it just yet because I don't know which arms I'm using, and obviously the direction of the head will be dependent on the arms and what they're doing, so we can go from there. Okay, see how we're looking now. Okay, we're looking better now. I think I'm quite happy with that. It's a little bit of a gap. Normally I'd probably spend time trimming that down, getting it back to a normal, nice, clean seal. But for the time being, we can maybe do a bit of sprue glue, actually. Do we have some sprue glue? Yeah, we do. When in doubt, use sprue glue or sprue goo. This will just spread out into the gap a little bit. I'm not going to use too much, just a little bit. And then when that spreads out, actually, I think I need to put a little bit more glue on that. It's kind of firming up, so I think I need to put some fresh glue in that pot. Okay. So we should be able to attach this now, and that should fill in that gap. There we go. I might need to do a little bit of cleaning up, but yeah. So when you've used sprue glue like this, then you can also take a little bit of clean glue, and you see where it's kind of squeezed out of these gaps a little bit there. If you're very careful, which is the great thing about these Tamiya applicators, because they have a brush applicator, you can use a little bit of glue and just smooth those back out a little bit. Don't want to apply too much, because obviously you will start to melt the plastic around it. You just want to melt the actual, that kind of excess amount that's just poking through there. There we go. And it's chaos as well, so if it does mess up a little bit, it's not too bad, because we now have a chaos helmet and we can use it on these torsos. And there we go. So what I like about this particular head is it adds a little bit more of, I think the expression with it being so blank is quite intimidating, really, and I think it adds also a little bit of extra height, so it looks otherworldly, kind of sits in that uncanny valley. So I quite like that effect. How could I use dead animal bits for white scars? White scars. So first of all, the feathers are really good. If you look at a lot of the Horus Heresy stuff for white scars, I'm just waiting for that glue to dry, so I'll be doing a quick side mission. So yeah, obviously if you look at a lot of the Horus Heresy stuff, that's the most themed, I think, so you can kind of get an idea of what you want to use from these kind of components. So I think feathers work quite nicely. You can see the feathers on the staff here. Obviously there's a bone staff there, so you can incorporate some of the small little bird skulls that are on the kit. They're really nice for that. What else is there? I think there's something else that I've seen before which would work quite nice. Even the teeth would work, I think. One of these models I did see a perfect use, but there's a lot of animal parts on these anyway, so obviously pelts, hunting trophies. The horns could be used as well. I think they're not necessarily quite as, they don't work quite as well for the white scars, but you could definitely incorporate. There we go, this is it. So how you can see the teeth there. There are teeth in the kit, little shark teeth as well, so they do stand out a little bit more from the old Space Wolves teeth as well. So yeah, that's how I would use dead animal bits with white scars. Hopefully that helped. Okay, so we need to pick some arms. I think the arms that I'm going to use are, at least one of the arms is going to be from this kit. I'm not sure which one. I quite like the idea of having some sort of baton, but I also quite like the idea of having a little bit more of a, I don't know, there's one of them that has handcuffs, and that would be pretty cool. That might be on a different sprue, so I need to find that sprue first. Yeah, I definitely think the shotgun won't work quite as well. The only other thing that I'm tempted to do is to go down the shield route. The shield obviously has a little bit of stuff which will need to be removed. It has purity seals. It has the Arbites symbol on there as well, which looks just like an Imperial Fist as well. I've only just noticed that. So if we took one of these and removed that, we could actually add some quite nice stuff to the front there. I don't know if that would work. I think that would look pretty good, actually. It's got me thinking now. It gives us a nice flat surface that we can add some stuff to. Patrick Johnson, I absolutely love watching kitbashing videos, despite the fact that I have never even held a mini. Would it be possible to kitbash a diver space marine based on the style of Big Daddy from Bioshock? Yes. They are. There is. I always forget the name. Let me find the name on Instagram first, and then we'll have a look. Oh, it's Luke Mockridge. Yeah. Just double checking this is the guy that did them because it was a while ago now. So yeah, I've seen some. Let me see if I can get it on here first. Not really showing up. Okay, they're not showing up particularly well, but I'll we'll have a quick look. So this is Luke's stuff. Some of it, it's a much more extensive Instagram page, but I'm not logged in on Firefox that I use for this. This is an example of the kind of stuff that he does. Really nice kind of deep sea style Death Guard. Really kind of heavily kit bashed. I think there might even be some 3D printers that do something. Space Marine Death Guard. Okay, so yeah, that's it. It's Mezgeek or Mezgeik. I never really know how to pronounce that. Do a range of these miniatures, which are kind of like Space Marines themed around this deep sea style. So very much in the Bioshock Big Daddy style. You see people have done these kind of styles as well. So yeah, definitely is a possibility. Some pretty cool looking models. These aren't necessarily conversions, these are entire models, like 3D printed models, but it does give you an idea that those kind of things are possible. Pretty sure that's not paint water that you're drinking. No, it is my tea. It's getting a bit cold now though. I probably should have drunk it a bit sooner. Okay, right, so a couple of options. We have some close combat weapons, which is plentiful. We have this, obviously we have this big mace looking thing. We have batons. We have, I think there's some pistol arms in here. There's definitely a pair of arms which are holding a pistol in two hands. We also have the shotguns, which I'm not as keen about. A few more close combat weapons. I am tempted by the shield. The shield is interesting because the shield kind of gives us a nice surface to work on, but I don't know if it works in the sense of a bounty hunter. I'm not sure if it quite fits that theme. I'm going to think about that one for a second, because I also have the other bits from the other kits as well. So I've got the blooded stuff here. I mean, there's a pretty cool shield on that actually, but I feel like I don't want to use that up. It's quite a nice shield. The arms, the problem with the arms as well, they're actually a little bit smaller, I think. The ones that come with they would work perfectly. They would fit no problem. But I think these arms are a little bit shorter and a little bit smaller, a little bit slimmer than the Arbites ones. And I don't think it's just because of the armor. I think their arms are considerably different sized. You can see there, it's like quite a difference in size there, really. maybe it's not too bad, not super noticeable. I do want to have one of the armoured arms though, but maybe we could have one armoured and one unarmoured. It would, I don't want it just looking too much like... I do like these though, these are very cool. These kind of backpacks, I think that would work quite nicely. Let's see. Oh yeah, that fits really nice. Okay. Yeah, I think I'll go for one of these in the backpack. That works quite nicely. I don't know which one to go for though. Let's do... I've got a choice now. So this one has got... Yeah, I'll go for this one actually. It's got the actual thing on there, the Chaos Star. Let's use that one. I wasn't sure about using this one just because it's got a Imperial Guard helmet, but I think that would be pretty funny to use on a Bounty Hunter. I might need to do a little bit of adjustment in the back here just to make sure that things line up, but yeah, it looks quite nice. Definitely has that chaos effect to it. Just going to trim this down here just to make sure things sit nicely, and then also make sure that this pistol fits against the belt once that lines up. So all I need to do is do a little bit of trimming on the back, trim this down, and then remove that as well. Really quick adjustment here, just clip that away and smooth out, because most of this is going to be hidden, so I'm not going to worry too much about getting this perfect, just because it's nice and simple. How do you think you could corrupt one of the massive Stormcast dragons to Nurgle? There seems to be a lot of room for it. It has been done. I have seen people do something along those lines. It does work quite nicely. The basic premise that most people tend to do is they take parts of the torso out, they add in ribs, and then they add in organs kind of splaying out from in between. You can also do an awful lot with just the paint scheme on those models. But yeah, if you're doing conversions and things like that, then there's definitely room for that. You kind of have to walk that fine line, though, between it being undead and then it being Nurgle. So tentacles tend to work quite nicely, though. What I would probably do, though, instead, would be use one of the... use the new Soulblight dragon instead, the undead one. I think that would be easier. Not impossible. I have converted the big Stormcast dragons. I did an orc looted one a while ago. Is this a bounty hunter that hunts chaos or a bounty hunter that hunts for chaos? No, Yankee is incorrect. I'm sorry, mate. You are incorrect on this one. This is a bounty hunter who... Well, Okay, I'll give it you. He could do both. He basically works for... He is a bounty hunter who works for the Chaos cults, specifically. Now, if that requires him to be hunting other Chaos cults on behalf of one particular Chaos cult or another, then obviously that is what happens. But generally speaking, he is pretty much... He is very much chaos himself. So this is probably needs a little bit of time just to set. So I'm just going to leave that for the time being. But I think it looks quite nice. I'm going to have to maybe just look at adding in the pistol holster there just to make sure that fits. Okay, but yeah, I think we've even just with that, I think we've got quite a nice chaos aesthetic. I think even if we just use basic arms, I think there's enough chaos there to give him... He's also got a cloak as well, which immediately makes it better. Can you give him a third arm like a Gene Stealer to make him look more alien? I could do. I mean, there's an option, especially if we look at these, because some of the arms are quite quite thin, quite skinny. You could possibly get away with one of them just sitting underneath the cloak, like this little pistol arm. Possibly. I don't know. Not sure about that one yet. I like the idea, but I don't think I have started out with it enough to be able to incorporate it into the final model easily. But I do like the idea. Yeah. You can give them mutations. There are rules for them for generic chaos gangs. Okay, smaller arms could work for a third one. Have the pistol reach around the shield. Could do. Could do. Thinking now. This is always the case whenever you do kit bashing, and it's very tempting to just go down a particular route that you already have in mind, but then there's also these guys. There's the cultists, which actually have, if I'm not mistaken, there is actually a little bit of chaos mutation on these guys already. Okay, this might be interesting. Is there any other parts on these? There probably is. I think I might have the actual mutant guys somewhere that I could use. You can see how that would, with a little adjustment, that could possibly work. Can I have this mutated arm popping out? Obviously this arm is meant to be that way, but if I trimmed it down, I could probably get away with it being a shoulder, especially because I have shoulder pads which will need to be adjusted and have some symbols removed, but I could place that over top. Yeah, let's do that. We're going to go for that. So we're going to include some mutations, but we're not going to include an extra arm. It's going to be like a little tentacle arm. If I had more time, if this was maybe a little bit more of a full video, I would probably try to incorporate the tentacle holding a weapon. I think that would be pretty funny. But yeah, so now this is removed, we can hopefully get a better idea. So we're going to have the arm like that. We're going to trim down the shoulder pad a little bit, and then we're going to place the shoulder pad over the top. So I'm going to trim this down, round this off, and then see how it looks with the shoulder pad on top. But I think it fits the style of the shoulder quite nicely. And then I can still go for my regular right hand. The arm's a little bit like atrophied if you look. It's a little bit kind of thinner. But we do also have the chaos symbol, which is good. Tentacle is good. Let's grab one of those shoulder pads and place that over the top. We'll start adjusting this. Is there any which has... No, they're all pretty much the same. Okay, let's grab one of those. And start seeing how this lines up. So yeah, we definitely need to trim this down here. Off topic, but what are your thoughts on Savage Space Marines? Not Berserker, but Savage. Okay, so you're talking about... when you say Savage, you mean in the sense of Black Rage, Blood Angels kind of Savage, or are you thinking... Because I guess there is already aspects of those incorporated into the lore. Obviously, you've got the Blood Angels are quite... Part of their aesthetic is almost to mask their kind of more savage nature, I suppose. And then the same goes for obviously Space Wolves. They embrace it a little bit more. than probably other chapters do. Yes, I am using an RBT for this model. So the basis is an RBT, and then the rest of the model is so far been a mix of the blooded kit from Chaos Space Marines, and then also the also it looks like at the moment the Chaos Cultists as well. Okay, a little bit Mad Mac. Okay, so I guess really what you kind of need to do is you need to kind of come up with, whenever someone asks me to lab to kind of help them with an idea for anything kit bashing related or coming up with like a different chapter or anything like that, is the first thing you need to do is to look at the situation and think how you almost need to work your way back. So if you've got a particular style in mind, you need to work your way back. Why would a Space Marine chapter be like that? So you can say, well, it could be a gene seed flaw, but then they're going to be related to at least one of the main legions. So you need to kind of think about how that could manifest itself. It could be a type of Red Thirst or Black Rage from the Blood Angels, maybe. And then you can start thinking, well, okay, what about the Mad Max vibe? Well, there's a lot of planets that get cut off in the 41st millennium. Space Marines go to a planet, there's a warp storm, timey-wimey shenanigans, and or before you know it, they've been stuck on this single planet for hundreds of years, cut off from supply lines. So you could say that maybe it's a offshoot of another chapter, or even a small unit of Blood Angel, something like that. And then they've essentially, yeah, I think it's going to work quite nicely. And then essentially they've been cut off on a planet, so they've had to scavenge their armor, they've had to adapt it, they've had to repurpose different pieces of material from whatever they're playing, whatever they're fighting against, into their own equipment. So we've got the arm in place now. We're going to remove the symbol from here. Someone actually mentioned scratching this off, and I think that might be a good idea. What armies do you play on tabletop? Not many. So I've got my Sylvaneth for Age of Sigmar, which I've kind of used as Nurglneth. I also have a strange army, which is basically my World Eaters, Horus Heresy World Eaters army, but I added enough units to it and structured it in a way that I could run it as a Firstborn Space Marine list. And they're not bad, actually. They've got Terminators, they've got Devastators, each of the quite a few tactical squads. It ended up within like, so I played a 1500 point tournament, and it had 40, how many did it have now? 40 tactical marines. This is the problem now. I've scratched too far down the surface and I've revealed the hole. So that's going to need to be covered up by something. So yeah, I played 40 tactical marines, a tech marine, dreadnoughts, 10 terminators, and then a land raider as well, which was obviously just everything I pretty much got in the Age of Darkness box set. It's quite a difficult one to clean up because of the shape, but slap a spike over that hole. Yeah, I mean, that's kind of when in doubt, you can either stick a spike or a skull or some other dead animal bit or something. Maybe we could dip into the kit actually and grab one. See what's in there. I'll say it once and say it again, no one can kill 100 marine bodies on the table. To be fair, they didn't do too badly. I'm not an experienced 40k player by any stretch of the imagination. And whilst I didn't win anything, did I win anything? How many games did I play now? So the first game I played against Eldar, and they were like stupid. So first of all, it was during the new edition of I think not long after a new edition of 40k had come out. So not everyone had codexes. The Eldar units, you could still use. You could still easily incorporate a lot of like the Shadow Spectres and stuff like that. So they had like they worked pretty well. The Wraith Guard were insane as well when the new at the beginning of the latest edition, whatever edition we're on, because they would basically, if you shot at them, they would shoot back, and then they could just move around the board. If you had an Autarch, you could sit them at the back, and they would just generate their fate dice or whatever that they could use to modify things. So yeah, they were ridiculous. I managed to do a pretty decent dent in them, but they still had an avatar that I'd not touched, and then they just wiped out a whole unit of my Terminators. So yeah, they were quite annoying, to be fair. Who else did I play in that game? I played Space Marines again, but they were like Primarists. I did alright against them. Not as well as I'd liked, but they did okay. I think I wasn't aggressive enough, to be fair, but again, if I had more Marines, it would have worked better, but I think I went too heavy on the Terminators, and they were really good. They were kind of sticking around and capturing objectives, but they were really terrible at doing damage. They kind of just sat there for a bit and just traded blows for ages, and then that was it. Really quite boring. Okay, so it's quite a rough finish there. I might use a little bit of try and smooth that out a little bit, just to see. So I'm kind of, I don't want to overdo the spikes too much. I'm kind of loath to do that. So what I might do is I might cheat with this little hole, and I'll show you a trick. So another sprue goo trick is if you have a little hole like that, if you take a little bit of the sprue goo, place it underneath. Don't have to be too neat at this stage, and then you get another little bit of normal glue, kind of spread that around so it goes into that hole, and you can see how it kind of starts to fill up. There you go. So you can see how it's filled the hole up now, and I'm just going to add a little bit more just until that's completely filled up. There we go. And then when I attach this to the side, and once it dries, if it still pokes out a little bit, then you can easily clean that up with a file later on. There we go. So yeah, we're kind of having a... I think I can probably attach the head now. I like the idea of him looking over this arm, so I need to have... Okay, let's give him a base just so I can get an idea of the structure a bit better. Got some Necromunda bases that we can use. always feel that once you start adding a base, it gives the model a bit more of a position in the world. Basically, you can kind of, it helps to build up from the model from there. So I think I'm quite pleased with what we've got so far. There's definitely enough chaos there to keep the model. Definitely, even if I go just down the normal RBT's right arm, I think it still works quite nicely. And I do like the idea of having a asymmetrical torso as well, so having something which is a bit more a slightly different right arm. I'm not sure which one to go with at the moment though. Joshua Rayner, are there any plans on making a sculpting tutorial for hair, not for hair? I have done hair a couple of times. If you check out the Emperor's Children video that I did, that had a tutorial, a section in there for hair. Who else had hair that I did? I've done a few models. I don't do it very often because hair is quite difficult to sculpt. Oh, if you're looking for beards, I did one for the... let me grab it. I did two, actually. I did the Votan, Chaos Votan. This guy, obviously, I sculpted the beard on for him, giving this kind of like segmented beard section there. And then this guy, I did the facial hair. So I did the beard on this guy, the big kind of mutton chop on that model. So this was the quite like doing this video. It was a good fun one. This is the Old Man Custodes one. So it's basically what happens when a Custodes retires and becomes an Eye of the Emperor. Nudok Prime, thank you for the super chat. Fixing a bad Demon Prince build with kitbashing. So what do you mean? What do you mean by fixing a bad Demon Prince build? I feel like I'm maybe missing something there, but you should do a kitbashing challenge where you kitbash every Space Marine character out of the... Oh no, you are kitbashing fixing a bad Demon Prince build with kitbashing. Awesome, I appreciate that. Thank you. Someone on Twitch, actually, it's the first time she's asked me to hydrate, and I was actually thinking I probably need to have a drink. So yeah, thank you very much for reminding me that. Oh, awesome! Fixing a bad Demon Prince. Cool. Okay, that makes sense. I thought you were giving me a suggestion for something to do in the future. What kind of Demon Prince are you working on at the moment? Are you going for a particular god or a particular legion, or is it Age of Sigmar? You should redraw a big Chunga super heavy tank as an Astreus. Yeah, I actually finally picked it up from Games Workshop. It was basically sat in one of their cabinets or in the office or somewhere. It was somewhere in the depths of Games Workshop's headquarters. And one of the guys said, "Oh, we've still got your tank, you know." I was like, "Oh yeah, forgot about that." So he's on my shelf now. He's back. I managed to break a little bit off when he came home, but it's still okay, still good. Let me show you how big it is, actually, because it's ridiculous how big the model is. So this is obviously the model itself. Let's look on the main camera just to give you an idea of. So this is the size of it. So it's probably bigger than... You can probably fit 4 Rogel Dawns in the kind of the footprint. So you can see how stupid that kind of size comparison is. And if I put it like that, you can kind of see how you could effectively fit 4 of these almost in the footprint. The best thing about this particular build, though, is basically what a lot of people don't see. So if you saw me build the model, you saw me doing all of the actual kind of work underneath it to make sure everything fit together and everything stayed together. And it was before this model got released. So if you look at underneath of the Rogel Dawn, everyone's like, oh, there's a big gap in there. I mean, how ridiculous. Why don't they just add extra stuff or add a floor in there that you could use? Well, I actually think they got the idea from me, because this is the underside of my tank, which, as cavities go, is pretty impressive, really. I mean, you can fit probably an entire... You could probably magnetize inside of this and use this to transport stuff inside it. So yeah, there's definitely give this some room for its money. But yeah, the gap on this is so big you can actually fit an entire tank inside there. So, but it was kind of the necessity, really. I had to do this just because there wasn't really anything that I could fit underneath there easily. I had to do some sort of... You can see I had to make these like braces. These are sprue here. This is a sprue here. These go along. These are basically tensioners. They're actually quite loose. They don't really sit there. They're effectively just there to add tension between these struts because they get pressed in at the sides. But yeah, it's quite interesting how that was built. There's even these little support struts as well to hold it up. This one here, again, it's a bit of a mess, but yeah, it was good fun. It was good fun. But yeah, so in terms of the model, it is massive. And really, if it's on a shelf, you don't really see much of it on there. It's effectively a terrain piece that has delusions of grandeur. But yeah, size-wise, it is good fun. And maybe I will repeat the big tank build in the future with an Astreus. I don't even want to think how long it took to paint that tank. Surprisingly, not too long. It was mostly airbrushing, oils, and a little bit of dry brushing as well, which kind of took out a lot of the time. There wasn't much on there which was specifically painted differently. I think the only thing that was painted differently from the rest of the model would have been the tracks, which were dry brush or airbrushed, and some of the exhausts as well were painted differently as well. When you kitbash this trace, you should call the video Bigger Chunkus. Okay, you did a Nurgle Prince for 40k, mess up the chest. I think Nurgle is probably the most forgiving in terms of kitbashing and doing adjustments to it, because I always say if anyone ever wants to do some kitbashing and do some sculpting especially, then Nurgle is probably the good place to go for, just because you can have really terrible looking skin and it just works very well for Nurgle. So we need another arm here. I'm not going to worry too much about doing anything. We're kind of coming up to the final stretch of this stream, so let's not go too... We probably need a pistol though, that's the only thing, because we have... Nope. All of these are melee arms, so we might have to do a weapon swap or get creative. Contemplating the options here. I actually quite like the idea of a shotgun, personally, but I don't think without some... I mean, this could possibly work, but no, probably not. We have the options for this kit as well that we can use. We can use some of the... these might work quite nicely. to be fair. You know what? I actually don't mind the idea of using one of these. I think now that I've kind of settled on using a smaller arm on the left. For the right, the left arm doesn't seem too bad. This is quite a generic arm, but I think it fits the nice, ragged aspect of Necromunda, personally. What else do we have for the Blooded that we can use? Give him a Gene Stealer arm so he can have 4 arms. If only. Okay, this is the weapon. So this is the weapon. So the Blooded, we're ideally looking for just a right-handed arm. The bolt pistol seems a little bit too meh. Stub gun, not too bad. Stub pistol, not a bad option. A little bit underwhelming, I think. It's probably a little bit too skinny. I'm tempted. Well, I've got to add a pistol anyway. He's got a pistol holster here which needs to be added. So if this acts as his equipped weapon, so to speak, then I could... Shotgun with the strap is fun. Where is that one? I think there is another sprue somewhere which is for the RBTs, which is an option. I think there might be the same for the Blooded. I don't know. Definitely not any of those. Use the heavy flamer, the launcher. The only thing is, he can only be realistically one arm, so I'd have to remove the other arm if I do anything that requires any two-handed weapons. What do we have? What do we have? A launcher will be pretty funny. The flamer, it's a bit much. And it goes across the body. Yeah, the launcher wouldn't be too bad. I could quite easily remove the hand. You know what? Let's go for the launcher. I think that's funny. At the end of the day, a bounty hunter doesn't... It is usually dead or alive. And I think as long as there's enough parts left of the guy you're hunting to be identifiable so you can claim the bounty, I think he wouldn't mind using a grenade launcher. If I adjust that arm a little bit, it's kind of... What's it stuck on? That's weird. Okay. If I adjust the arm a little bit so it's kind of more held out like that, I think that would work quite well. Obviously drill out the barrel. And I have to remove the extra hand as well. I have a little arm holding it up. Yeah... I'm tempted, but I'm trying to think of the logistics here about getting the arm in that gap, and it's starting to make the torso look a bit messy. I like the idea, but I think I might just stick. I think it looks cooler without the arm. It kind of has that, especially with that pose. If you imagine it like that. This reminds me, I really need to pick a gang. Get any recommendations for a first-time Necromunda player that aren't the core houses? I would definitely suggest... I'm going to summon Yankee into the chat. Type Beta on Twitch. Just started with the hobby. How would you get into kitbashing? Have some sisters where my max kitbash exchanging some arms from one model to the other. Yeah, so I mean, kitbashing is an interesting one because kitbashing covers a very wide range of. It covers a huge range of different scales of kitbashing. A kitbash is a head swap. Just swapping a head from one to another is often plenty. But then obviously you can really take it to like a really stupid level and build like a full huge model. But yeah, no, I think if you're doing anything like kitbashing on a small scale, I think head swaps are, like you said, are a great place to start. And I think the Citadel Skulls set is also a very good kit because it's just a way of adding extra details to your models, and they work with most things. With Sisters, they're probably one of the harder ones to kitbash, in my experience, just because whilst they have a large range of different components that you can use, you often end up with using just the components from their own stuff, which it's not impossible. There are a few things that get expanded out now. There are Imperial Agent units, which have a few pretty good options. You've got the Sisters of Silence as well. I have done a few kitbashing things for Sisters as well. This is one of the models. So this pretty much this is from the Flagellants kit, but these are from the Necromunda kit. But pretty much everything else. This arm is a Arco-Flagellant arm. The pennant, I think, is a Sisters of Battle, and the head is definitely as well. But yeah, there's a few options basically with Sisters of Battle. You can do kitbashing and you can stay entirely within the range, but just do small things. Start off small and then take baby steps. You don't want to completely ruin models just for the sake of doing some kitbashing, because you'll get put off from doing kitbashing essentially. Okay, we're just in the process of getting this arm nice and flat to work against the torso. So it's going to take a little bit of adjustment and a little bit of work, but we will get there. I need a file. Halo meeting with Warhammer would be fire. So Mantic Games actually have a Halo game, and they do have some Spartan miniatures as well. So might be interesting. I don't know what I've not had any of the models myself, so I don't know what scale they would work well to get like the scales right. I suspect that the Halo models will be a little bit more true scale, but I don't think it'd be impossible. Right, so what are we clashing against a little bit? We might have to get the old sprue glue out again just to fix this, but first thing I'm going to do is drill a hole into the end of that grenade launcher, because that is just a solid lead pipe at the moment, which is no good for anyone. Is this too big? Yeah, too big. If you were to make a tower-fied Kig-Yar/Jackal, how would you go about it? Said question could also be applied to any of the Covenant species. Yes, I mean, this is interesting because I've talked about it before when I've done my custom Xenos builds, because there is a huge amount of different alien styles out there, but I think the only Tower Auxiliary races that we've seen have been kind of mostly humanoid. Akrut are 2 arms, 2 legs, and a head. Even like the Vespids are 2 arms, 2 legs, and a head. Everything's pretty much the same, and we haven't really seen much else in the way of Tower Auxiliaries in terms of official models. Even the human auxiliaries that are talked about are still 2 arms, 2 legs, and a head. So it would be nice to do something that's a little bit more out there. And I do think the Covenant, whilst they still follow that same structure, they're a little bit more different. The brutes are probably the most similar to humans, but definitely the elites are quite different. The grunts are quite different. The jackals, again, quite different. But yeah, in terms of your original question, obviously the jackals, the biggest thing is you either got sniper jackals or you got shield jackals. From at least when I used to play Halo, anyway. There might be upteen more variations that I'm not aware of. But yeah, as Metahan has said, Zangors would probably fit that quite well initially. I think Tau aspects would be, you want to maybe look at the shields. Snipers could be made from the railguns quite easily. So yeah, there's definitely options there. It's definitely a pretty good idea. I think a lot of the Covenant races would work pretty well. And again, I'm not 100% sure where they are. The last time that I played it, I think the brutes were probably the newest addition. I don't know if any more have been added. There was the what are they called? The ones that were in ODST. They were like the engineers or something like that. Can't remember. Okay, so this arm, hopefully, should... I think I can get a little bit more... Engineers, yeah, okay. I thought they were. Again, I'd love to do more Xenos races for Tau Auxiliaries, but I have a few ideas, but sometimes it's getting the actual models built. And one of the things I also try and do, which probably does hinder my efforts a little bit with these kind of things, is that I always like to go down the route of them being proxyable with something. Especially, so my Thaltians were pretty good because you could just have one as a sniper drone team, quite an easy setup. So if you wanted to go to the effort of actually building one, you could do. But so this is the trouble. My actual thing is melted down a little bit, so I need another option to get the glue out. Let's take a little bit of wire. Let's grab some wire. Attempts to make some abhuman guard reserves. That'd be pretty cool. There's definitely options there. Obviously, there is kind of official Beastmen models for 40k now, which is pretty cool. So, as you can see, the sprue goo is a little bit more firm than I want it to be. I think I've not topped up the glue in there quite as much as I wanted to, but you can reactivate that gooiness if you need to, just by putting a little bit of fresh glue on there. I'm kind of purposefully adding more than I need here because I'm going to cheat, basically. Normally, this would be like a pinning and then green stuff filling job, but for the sake of expediency, we're just going to use some sprue goo. So I'm going to hold it so that the arm is a little bit more open there, you can see. Got a little bit of glue on there, that's fine. A little bit more open, but the actual goo itself is kind of filling in that gap for me, so it gives me a bit more of a slightly open pose. Let's adjust that focus so we can see more clearly. There we go. Oops. So I'm going to try and hold that open a little bit. So as that dries, that should lock into place, and then as the goo dries as well, it should work. Are there any good cog axes aside from the hero units for Space Marines? So I can't think of anything specific, but I know how you could build them yourself, because you've got the if you look at the what are they called now? Electro priests, that's it. That's the word I'm looking for. The electro priests, they have these kind of headrests, which these headdresses things, which are basically cogs. Now, you could probably use those, but if you're looking for something quite a bit bigger, let's, whilst we wait for that to cure and dry, let's have a look on the good old Firefox and see where we are with. Obviously, the place to look for those kind of things is always going to be the Mechanicus, because they have a few options. Let's have a quick look at the Horus Heresy, because they do have quite a decent Mechanicum range now. So let's see if there's anything in here which is useful. Nothing that stands out immediately. The Myrmidons, I would imagine at some point these guys are going to get made in plastic, simply because most of the other stuff that is resin has been made in plastic. So seeing these in plastic in the next year or so would be reasonable, and these probably would have the cog axes in there as well. What other options do we have? Yeah. These guys have got claws. These guys have got guns. No, nothing there. So let's look at the Electro Priest, like I was saying. Armies of the Imperium, Adeptus Mechanicus, and then the Electro Priests. If we can find them on here. These. So, if you build them as the Corpuscari, you have these kind of shrouds around their heads like that. But if you build them as the Fulgurite instead, they have these cogs instead, so like that. You can see them, and those are actually separate pieces. I think you can see them on the sprue. Yeah, so those are there. Okay, so you can see them. Zoom in. So you have these here, and then you have there's one down here behind where I am, but there's a couple of them dotted about, and there's also the actual weapons themselves. So you could probably make some quite easily from those. Again, buying a whole box for maybe the few that you get on there. I can't remember exactly how many you get in a box. I think it's maybe about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, at least 5, maybe more. It gives you lots of different options though, if you want to do any sort of iron hands or similar. Right, so I actually think that if we go back to the tabletop, we can see the finished model. I'm actually pretty happy with that. I think there's a few things we could probably add extra to it if we wanted to, but I don't want to overdo the chaos effect. I think he looks the part, personally, if I do say so myself. He has the chaos vibe. Obviously, the armor is very chaotic. The mutations, definitely so. We also have a few chaos symbols in here, on the wrist, and then there's also on this little pistol holster as well. Trophies, again, big chaos, and there's lots of really kind of haphazard armor across the model, which I think all adds to make this very kind of typically Necromundian model as well, where everything's scavenged and not necessarily particularly well looked after, but then it also fits that chaos aesthetic as well. But yeah, really happy with that. It's always good fun to do the Necromunda Bounty Hunters, just because they are quite freeing in the sense that you kind of have this one-shot model which you just have as a one-off. They can be quite unique. They can have their own particular flair. You can theme them around a particular gang if you want to. But yeah, really happy with that one. And I think that actually brings us really nicely to the end of the stream. But yeah, I think we can probably add some more pouches to it if we need to, maybe around the waist there, but I think I've tried to not overdo the model too much. We've got some pouches there. We'll just say he's gotten behind. But yeah, thank you very much to everyone who has tuned in to this week's live stream. I do appreciate it. We had a few more people on Twitch as well this time. Thank you to Peachy for actually raiding as well, so thank you very much to everyone who stayed around after that, and all the first time viewers for the streams. I hope you enjoy it. If you have any suggestions for the streams, then there is a community post on YouTube already which talks about this one, so just go on there and just let me know your ideas for any future streams, what you'd like to see, be it more kitbashing, painting, something else, whatever. It's going to be Warhammer related in some way, but anything in this area. So I'll be back again next Wednesday at 7 PM BST, same time as this week. There's a video coming out this Sunday, and then that's it. I think that's everything. So yeah, thank you very much thank you to everyone who has commented. I hope you have a wonderful week until next Wednesday, and I will see you all again on the next stream. Bye.